Over to you.
Thanks, Stephanie. And I'll go ahead and kick us off and then turn it over to Naima. Obviously, I saw what Bree put in the chat, and I saw JD's Cloud. This is obviously a great group of people. I'm happy to see names that I'm familiar with. And Jesse, it seems like you, Naima, and I are on the same speaking tour between AALHE and this group and sharing things. It's an interesting semester as folks are starting to recognize that there are options that aren't giant assessment management systems, which is always a good thing. So for Naima and I, Naima's gonna kick us off and talk about how we use Loop at Riddle. And I'm glad Naima's here because Naima's the brains behind 99% of our Microsoft endeavors, and I just sit around and mess around with CoPilot and make it useful for us and do cool things. But I break as much as I build, so I'll show you a lot of that. But we've definitely taken some intentional steps this semester, this year, to really fully integrate Microsoft tools into what we're doing in our office, recognizing the volatility in the ed tech space, but then also recognizing the cost savings and everything that could possibly come with this. So we really set out for efficiency. We set out for better record keeping. We set out for better collaboration opportunities. To give you a sense for us of why that's, especially important, within our office, there's 11 of us total. Three focused really on state authorizations because we have state authorizations in 28 states that take up all sorts of our time with bureaucracy and government and those fun things. And then on the assessment side of the house, everybody's remote. Naima's in Alabama today. I'm in Daytona Beach. I think I saw Kayla's here. Kayla's in Texas. We have two people in Florida that are still, 4.5 hours away from me. We have somebody in South Carolina. So we're spread out, but we still want to be able to, meaningfully collaborate, and share things in an asynchronous way where we can also be synchronously working on it, which Naima has really helped bring in with Loop. So I'll turn it over to Naima and we'll talk about Loop first, and then we'll turn over and talk about Copilot and some of the things we've done in Copilot second.
Well, I am excited to be here. I appreciate Will's accolades, but I like to get into the system and just play around. And I learn by doing. And so that's what I'm going to do today is just show you all some of what I have done with regards to Loop. I love being organized, and I like that the Microsoft tools or the ecosystem, a lot of those tools and apps integrate well one with another. And so that's one of the benefits of using Loop specifically. And so what I would like to do is share my screen here with you all. And please be patient. I have 99 monitors, so I want to make sure I select the correct one. Hopefully you all are seeing a loop right now that says OIS team task list. Okay, thumbs up. See, I appreciate that. I'm a person who does not always enjoy talking to others, but I understand in this community I will have to do that. But I like the nonverbal, like head nods and the thumbs up. That's what I like. If you are not familiar with Loop, again, it is one of the Microsoft tools, and it's really a collaborative workspace that can be used similarly to OneNote. There are also some planner components, and it allows people to work together on a project in real time. So one of the things that I like about Loop is that it's very flexible. And so it has three main elements, which are the components, the pages, and then the workspace itself. And I've kind of started us in the middle, but what I want to do again here is just make sure we're seeing my screen. And so what we're looking at right now is that OIS is my team, and Will mentioned Kayla Wagner. She's a part of the OIS team. And what we do is look at operational impact and success for our administrative and student support services here at Riddle. So our student life, our HR, our facilities, our, that side of the house. And we work together to plan out a lot of the work that we're going to be doing throughout the year. And so for the sake of time, I do want to kind of just give an overview of how we use Loop a few ways. So what you're looking at now on this screen is just notes from our meetings. When we have different tasks, we will sometimes place them into our Loop, but I'll show you a couple of different ways that we use it. And like again, I said I started in the middle, but typically when you access Loop, you can either access it from I'll start here, from the Ernie is our intranet, our internal internet, and you can access it from the waffle. Um, and you'll be able to see your workspace. So that's one of the three components, right? You have your workspace. And then within a workspace, you'll have your pages, and then you'll have components, and I'll show you each of those. I use it a few ways to provide feedback on plans and reports for our continuous improvement annual cycle. I use it to hash out ideas, to track meeting notes. When we're working on collaborative projects, we use it as an office with our entire OSIP team. As Will mentioned, there are 11 of us, and so I use it that way as well. What I will do is show you quickly a few of the ways that I have used Loop, and hopefully I don't lose you all. And now my Loop doesn't want to respond. Of course it doesn't, because that's what happens when you're in the middle of trying to demo something. So I'm going to try again and start over. And see, you all are getting the reality of it, right? Sometimes these tools work and sometimes they are a little temperamental. Okay, so when I provide feedback, I've created a reusable template, and it is used to provide feedback to our different departments, our units. And so we're able to see our rubric scores and give feedback in real time, and have recommendations included, and next steps and follow up, have in the section for the reviewer's final comments. And the person who receives this feedback is able to get into this template in real time. So while we're meeting, we can discuss each component. It can be bi-directional feedback. They can see a comment that I've made and they can make a note and say, well, I don't agree with what you said about my plan item. So that's one thing. And what I showed you initially was how we use it for our team planning, where we have tasks that we do. And we don't always update it, but it exists for a reason. Another way I've used it is to confirm org structure or organizational structures of some of our different units. And so they have been able to get into the system and leave comments for me. And so these comments were left by the person who was the contact for this organizational structure verification process. One other thing that we do with Loop is use it when we're planning, for example, our webinars that we put on monthly. There are free webinars that we do provide. And so we use this collaboratively as a team, and you'll see a number of our team members for our office listed here, and we can assign who will do what and when, and we have all types of details that we're able to include while we're collaborating and making these plans together as a group. So I spoke about the integrative nature of a Loop. What I want to show you is, in the past, I have been able to just send out an email to someone with this link to their Loop, and they can click it and it'll take them directly to the Loop component that I have prepared for them to review. The other thing is, when it comes to Loop, is that it integrates well with Teams. So we can include a loop within a team meeting within those notes. And I'll just show you quickly. There's also the option of opening a loop in a loop workspace from a Teams meeting. And what that does is takes all of these notes, all of these attachments, all of the things that have occurred within this meeting, and it takes it and adds it to a loop. And I can show you that. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but what it does is creates a loop. It's kind of messy, and so you'll have to, Kayla, if you're seeing this, please don't think that I'm sending you anything. So I'm just going to create this loop. And of course, something definitely went wrong once again. But what it does is takes all of the components from our meetings, our notes, our agendas, everything that we have discussed in our teams meeting. And these are continuous meetings. So we meet weekly. And so that's what all of those notes would be. And because it didn't want to cooperate, I won't be able to show you that. But it does look very messy when you initially set it up. And so what you would have to do is go in and organize it in a way that works well for you. And I made a few notes because I didn't want to skip over anything. And I think what I will show you then, since this didn't cooperate, I'll just show you very quickly of how we can embed a loop component in a chat. So this is a conversation that I would be having with myself potentially, but if you're in Teams, and hopefully you're still seeing my screen, on the in your Teams chat, you can start by adding a table, a bulleted list, and we can assign things to different people within this area. And all of this will stay in one Teams chat. It will all stay together. And so I can assign something to Will, and I could try to assign something to Will and see if that will work. And we'll see what happens. I will click that again. Well,
My
apparently I
account
can't.
just doesn't accept more work, Naima. It just never.
That makes sense.
It
That
just
that
yeah. I just
tracks
have it
because
well
I think
trained
you do
to say no
plenty.
to additional
So
responsibilities.
so you do plenty. And so anyway, this is how you are able to, and this will stay within the conversation. The other thing that now it's adding will multiple times, of course. So I will go ahead and disregard that and delete that. The other thing that I wanted to be able to kind of quickly show you all is just that you can tag people and you can assign different tasks to them, and you can attach files within a loop. And I'm looking at my notes just to make sure I haven't missed anything, because the most exciting part of this conversation will be about how we use CoPilot. And so I don't want to bore you all too much with the talks of loop. If I think of anything else as Will is talking, I may jump in again, but I think that's it. Do you all have any questions for me at this very moment about loop? I'm willing to go a little bit more into details. I see someone's hand is up. Erica Bender.
Hi, thanks, Naima. I'm curious. I have used Airtable in the past, which I feel like Loop is sort of similar to that. I've also used Trello in the past, which is
Mm,
sort of similar to Planner. And I'm just curious if you've tried Loop versus Planner and head-to-head combat, and which one, obviously you're using Loop, but Loop versus Planner thoughts? I don't know.
I will tell you that we use both. We use Loop and we use Planner, and Loop will integrate within a plan in your planner. So you can integrate a Loop page. So I don't know if now I'm thinking I can show you something, but there's a probability that this won't work either. But we will see. So we do have our planner. This is an older one. I think I have an option. This is a very old version. Kayla, don't beat me up about this because I don't have our more recent plan tags apparently. Let's see. Here it is. And so within our plan, we can connect each of these
Sorry, you're not
tasks.
sharing your screen,
Uh,
Naima. I don't know if you meant to
of
be
course,
sharing.
that saves me some embarrassment of not being able to open what I was trying to open. So now, okay, so this is our plan. We have a 3-year strategic plan for the OIS team. And so we are able to connect each of these task components to a page in Loop. And we have not done that completely, because weekly when we have our meetings, as you all know, Copilot will give you a transcript and an AI version, and then there's the follow up or next steps. I think it refers to it as that. And so we're able to just copy those into that loop that I showed you initially. Oh, so it did work. What I imported from our team's chat. And so remember when I said this looks a little clunky, it looks a little messy. This is how it exports, and you're able to sort it by hierarchy or by activity. And this is all of our attachments that we've added to our chat. This is the recordings of our meetings. Like this is the whole shebang from that thread from all of our weekly meetings. And so that is what I was hoping to show you before, but apparently it took its own sweet time, and I'll delete it shortly. But my point in showing you all of this is that these items work well together. I think that some people may feel that Loop could be a viable replacement for OneNote. It does have some components similar to Planner, but I like Planner for the purposes of the long-term strategic planning because, as you can see, sometimes Loop is a little messy, but you can add the different components like I mentioned before. So if you wanted to build out a task or a to-do list with due dates like we have done, you can do that as well. The other thing, and I know that someone has their hand up, and I'm going to keep this as short as I can. I just wanted to show, so at the end of the year, sometimes you have to talk about your achievements or accomplishments throughout the year. And one of the things that I have done with Loop is created a place where am able to track all of the things that I have done throughout the year. And not only that, I've been able to think through ideas of things that I want to do for the upcoming year. And I think I can find it here. And to see that this is how my example of sometimes Loop can be a little bit clunky. It does integrate well, but you just have to familiarize yourself with it enough to know how to navigate. So I've been able to keep track of all of the things that I have done this year, plan to do this year, and all of the projects. And as time goes on, I'm able to move them into a different category: will do, might do. So the components are what makes Loop a viable option instead of using OneNote or Planner. It depends on your specific needs. So I will stop there. And Meg, I see your hand is up. So I will zip it for a few.
Hey, no need to zip it. This was great. So one general question. Do you use like I guess project or planner for the specific components and Loop more for like the overarching plan? Like in terms of like longer term project management, I can definitely see the benefit of Loop. Do you get into specifics with planner or like where does one thing start and end?
So Planner is very detailed, and Kayla has done an excellent job of putting our plan together for the next few years. And it's organized by goals. So this is very detailed, very specific, and we will have our quarterly check-ins, and we'll go over the progress we've made. One of the things I love about Planner, you can see the different views and see where you are. It's kind of like not really a Gantt chart, but you get that feel, right? So that is the beauty of using Planner. The I was going to say the thing about using Loop, though, it isn't as neat sometimes. We can make it look however we want to make it look. And I want to go back to where I started out. Okay, so our task list, here we go. So with our task list, we can get as detailed as we would like. So when we first started using tasks, these were just different ideas, high level ideas of the things that we wanted to do and by when. As time has gone on, we can add more details and we have more specifics, but it's just, okay, we've had a meeting Tuesday. What do we want to do and when do we want to achieve these things by? And we can just put those quick little notes in there. And we can copy those from, and I'll go back to our meeting notes. Now, whatever happens in this meeting stays in this meeting. So hopefully nothing is confidential or private. But when we finish our meetings. We are able to look at the transcripts, of course. And then, I hopefully you all know that you get this AI summary, and then at the end of it, it has follow-up tasks. And so these can be moved to that loop so that we can keep track of it. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. Loop started to look a little bit like, like organizational wise, you could turn it into like a SharePoint site, but I think the difference is you're connecting it to these like timelines and projects, and that's awesome.
Yes. Yes. And now, if there aren't any additional questions, I would love, it does take time to train. Yes, it does. It is it's similar to List. I love List. And I did attend Jessie's sessions at both of her sessions talking about how she uses List. So yeah, I use List a lot. And I'm just making sure I haven't overlooked anyone's comments about does Loop track changes or, oh, that's a good question. I don't know if Loop will, I think you can look at, yeah, you can look at version histories. You can also print these out as well. One of the things I've done is printed them out. And when I provide feedback to units on their plan, I am able to print out the Loop as a PDF and share that with them as well. So now, for the sake of time, I am going to hand it over to Will.
Thanks, Naima. And obviously, if people have questions about Loop, we can keep coming back to it. So that'll be good. But Loop has definitely been a big time save for us in a lot of different places, and it's one that I would openly, transparently say I'm glad Naima was here because I'm still learning it. So a very different experience hearing from her than if you'd heard from just me. What I'm going to turn to is talking about CoPilot and the work that we've done with CoPilot related to assessment. And it's fun timing because I had to spend a significant part of my morning in CoPilot, working with, not even working with faculty in this case, but correcting some course information. So let me go ahead and share my screen. I'm going to walk through three different tools that we've created and why we've chosen to use AI to kind of assist us in these. And some of you have probably heard a little bit potentially from me in other venues about what we're doing and how we're doing it. But really three big pieces. And I'm going to start by talking about an agent that we created called Clarity Tower. Um, and when we look at Clarity Tower, at Riddle, up until a month ago, we'd been operating on three separate catalogs by our three campuses. So we had a Daytona Beach catalog, a Prescott catalog, a worldwide catalog. Seems somewhat basic enough, except for faculty at each campus have used the catalog as their way to stick a stake in the ground and claim things as their own. So one campus insists on using four-letter prefixes, so another campus that uses three can't just take over their courses. And we have all this duplication and all these different pieces. And thankfully, the Board of Trustees came forward and said, one university, one catalog, get this done. So we spent a lot of time over the last year using AI to help us figure out how to go from three separate, sometimes competing catalogs to one catalog, how to standardize language, how to help faculty on two campuses teaching the same course come to an understanding that, the wording of course learning outcomes isn't a life or death situation in most cases, in any case that I'm aware of, but we'll go with most cases just to keep the door open. And ultimately, we were able to cut about 20% of our catalog through finding duplication, through finding, in some cases, 4 or 5 courses that could be collapsed into one. We were able to standardize language and formatting. So course descriptions, for example, were basically cut in half with their length. They were all formatted to look the same, as opposed to us moving to this one singular new catalog and it seeming like it was Frankenstein together from all of these different pieces. And then going through and looking at learning outcomes and making sure that for courses, we have a legitimate number of learning outcomes. We had a course that had 29 course learning outcomes at one point that they wanted to show in the catalog. So we got everybody down to, I tell people openly, we got every course in our catalog, about 2,400 courses, down to between 4 and 6 course learning outcomes, except for 2 courses that insisted on having 7. And it is my life's mission to kill 1 course outcome from each of those courses in the next year. That is like that's the grail I'm chasing at this point. But the really important part about what we're doing with AI now, and what we're doing with what Clarity Tower is, which I'm showing on the screen, is once we've created this, we have to make sure we maintain it. Because what I won't be doing in 5 years is going back and having to redo these same circumstances and these same processes so that it still shows as coherent as it does. So we've engaged with faculty through the curricular process that they now are expected to use this agent to either help them write course descriptions, course goals, or learning outcomes, or to basically check the quality of their proposed course descriptions, course goals, and learning outcomes prior to them entering the curricular process. So there's less manual back and forth and feedback, and they're able to kind of work their way through this. So I'll kind of demonstrate how we've created these and ultimately what it does. And I'll start with just a course description checker. And you'll notice it says, give us the course prefix, give us the number, give us the title. And I'm just going to say, it's an AMST 205. I pray there's nobody from the campus that I'm going to use as the example of the bad course description from Embry-Riddle standard angles here. And I'll call it, American Prisons and Society or something. It doesn't really matter. And then I'll go through and actually grab that course description. This is the course description we're starting with. Very lengthy, full of detail, very good for marketing purposes. Doesn't fit the Embry-Riddle approach to what course description should be. And then if the faculty member had this, they'd be able to come in, submit it, and I'll show you how this is built and how to build in CoPilot too. So it's not just going to be showing you the output, but here's a catalog compliant rewrite based on institutional guidelines. Gives us the prefix, the number, gives us the title, and you'll notice that it's now gone down to a less than 700 character description, written in more of the riddle style, which is, minimal verbs, minimal complete sentences, far more on the semicolons and listing out topics that will be covered. And then it also walks through what did we do? Removed full sentences, removed introductory phases, limited it to the 700 characters, used brief descriptive phrases separated by semicolons, avoided phrases such as topics include and unnecessary verbs. And again, this might be different on your campus for how you want course descriptions to read, but for us, this was essential to making sure that everything stays formatted roughly the same way. And I saw what David just put in the chat that there's a similar tool, which is great to see others doing this. But when I looked back over my 2.5 years at Riddle, the number of emails that go back and forth trying to get faculty from what we had to this ranged anywhere from five to six throughout the curricular process, and it's time that could simply be better spent by giving faculty the tools to get this right the first time, and to also be able to push back on AI where it needs to be pushed back on. We tell faculty all the time, you don't have to copy and paste what's here, but this will give you a darn good sense of more of what we're looking for style-wise, which will then allow you to adjust it as owners of the curriculum into demonstrating exactly what you ultimately need to show that. And again, and I like that Stephen helps you say SAC COC compliant. That's perfect. I bet he'd love that too. That seems like it'd be right up his alley. So you can go through and do this. Same way faculty could go through it if they don't know for sure what they have as a draft description, and we have a lot of faculty doing this. They could basically say 200 level course on prisons. It needs to focus on how they impact society. Be sure to begin with Foucault and then panopticon. I'll put in a bunch of prison phrases I can think of. Impact on disparity, current issues, debates, death penalty. I mean, you could voice to text this, which is what makes it nice. So faculty could basically brain dump. Here are the things we think we want to have in this course and what we want it to look like, and then allow this to walk through. And then, do you want me to draft this into it? Yes, please. And then it'll ultimately walk through. Here's your new description, lets you know that you're within it, lets you know, well, in this case, it's going down even to course goals and student learning outcomes already, which is good because I can actually show you that the way we trained this is to think about different levels for blooms. We said this was a 200 level course. This is actually a 500 level grad seminar. Please rewrite LOs. and it should step up the Bloom's complexity based on how it's been trained and what information it's been fed to show us this. So you see it's now gone into critique, evaluate, synthesize, formulate, as opposed to more explain, analyze, evaluate, with some explanations on higher cognitive complexity, single verbs, measurable and observable, um, onward and on with that, which hopefully, again, gives greater opportunity for faculty to interact with this directly. And again, I'm happy to have these conversations. Naima's happy to have these conversations. Karen and Lisa and Rebecca, who are on our academic affairs side, are happy to have these conversations. But sometimes faculty don't want to talk about this. When I go back and forth on, which Bloom verb, there tends to be a lot of conversation on, I don't care about the Bloom's verb. This is how I want to teach it. You tell me what it needs to be. And that's okay. This does that without them having to interact with me. And even more importantly, if they end up unhappy with what this tells them, they get mad at the AI. They don't get mad at me. It's not personal. I don't know what the AI told you. Like, I may have created it. I've trained it to be nice. I tell it not to be sarcastic. I wish I had a hidden one that I could send to the faculty who need the sarcasm, where I could be like, they're difficult. Give them a little more, attitude in your responses on these things. But it's meant to make this, again, as faculty driven as it can be for them. Will you show the prompt? Yes, I'm going to show you the prompted instructions actually right now, Erica, and I'm happy to share all of this out. So if I go in and actually look at how we've built out Clarity Tower, and then I'll show you guys the other ones. If you haven't built in CoPilot before, I tell people all the time, it takes 5 minutes to build an agent. It takes a week to train the agent to actually do what you need it to do. On course goals, this one still hasn't figured out what I want it to do. It's a daily battle of me like trying not to scream at it when it does the same thing the way I don't want it every time. But it's learned very quickly how to take the wrong thing and put it into what I want. So ultimately, what I end up doing when I write my instructions and even my descriptions is after I go through training, I actually ask the agent to write the description itself. So, I'll share all of this out, but, when you look at the description, this is how Clarity Tower describes itself. I assist faculty and academic staff in crafting compliant, effective catalog-ready course materials, course descriptions, concise, non-centennial phrasing, 700 character limit, clarity and adherence. I help it write student learning outcomes, single Bloom verb. I make sure they're accessible, succinct, and aligned with level and scope. I scaffold across course levels. I check for double-barreled outcomes, and I ensure institutional policy. On the instructional side, there are instructions I've given it and then instructions you find for it while you're training. So, we started with assisting faculty in finalizing outcome, accepting both refined and initial ideas, so draft outcomes as opposed to just, the drop of faculty thoughts, detailed explanations for any changes made. This is a big one. One thing about the AI tool for us is I view this as an educational tool for faculty too. Simply having it dump out and say, this is what you need, isn't as helpful as I took this and turned it into that because of these things. So if faculty want to become more self-sufficient and not rely on the AI and get it right the first time, and not get it right's the wrong wording, but get it more appropriate for what we're looking for the first time, they are, instructed and told what we're looking for. That also makes the training even more important, though, because the last thing you want is an AI agent to misinterpret what you want it to do and then tell faculty this is okay. Because the few times I've had to have that conversation, that gets real awkward when they paste into a curriculum proposal something that Clarity Tower gave it, and then I come back and say that's not good. They're like, well, it was your tool that did it, so who do I trust? What do I do? And that's a common, not commonplace, but that's the type of interaction we have to get used to as we use these tools. Detailed explanations, utilize the uploaded standards, handle 3 separate tasks, professional and supportive tone. This is where I wish I could just have it sometimes say, like, just give it back to them. Whatever tone they give you, deal it right back. So if they're being nice, be nice. If not, don't. Never allow for more than one action verb. For us as an institution, never let the ability to or demonstrate being a learning outcome. We have our faculty trained there, and we don't want that to go away. And don't let course descriptions list prereqs or coreqs, which is a historical piece for Embry-Riddle that we're trying to move away from, to look that way. And then from a knowledge perspective, it's not overly trained, to be honest. We gave it the Stanford and the Wisconsin learning outcome writing guides because they're the 2 most coherent and clear that I found. We could keep adding to that if we wanted. And then we gave it 2 PDFs, which are the internal documentation for guidance on writing course descriptions, goals, and outcomes, that faculty have had access to for 7 years, and never actually started to use. So, we could build this agent quite quickly. And then at that point, it was a lot of time going through here are bad outcomes. Here's what we manually would create to think these are good outcomes. How do we get you to go from this to this? What could we ask of you? What could we put into the instructions? What could we upload into knowledge? What would be beneficial? You have to be willing in those trainings with AI to ask the AI how it made decisions. So like if it gives me a double-barreled verb as the outcome, I will immediately, it's not, correct that. It's why did you put that and do you think this follows the guidelines? And sometimes it'll say like, based on what the faculty member said they wanted, it really is the combination of identifying and explaining. One or the other is not enough. And like, okay, that's a different conversation than simply a faculty member using two verbs in a draft outcome and seeing how that ultimately has happened. So lots of different uh, considerations on that piece, but not hard to build or set up. Legitimately, from a build perspective, 5, 10 minutes of walking through, but then hours and hours of how do we break this? How do we train this? How do we make sure it's going to give what we want? And when it's not, how do we ask it the right questions so that we can get to the place that we need to be? And I think that's the part we sometimes lose is being willing to invest that time on the back end to get us to a good place. I have one other tool to share, but for now, I want to take questions about Clarity Tower. And David, your point in the chat's exactly right. It's iterative. This agent will never be done. Admittedly, like this is one that we will constantly be refining at all times. If we change our expectations or our requirements, things will obviously change as well. So, I mean, it's one that, as faculty tell us things haven't worked the way they thought they would, or things haven't moved, we need to be ready to adjust to that. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, hey, thanks, Will. That was really awesome. We've been sort of messing around with this at South Seattle Community College I work at. One of the things I was curious about is do you try to let it align outcomes? Like if you have course to program to institutional outcomes, have you messed around with that at all?
Yeah, so the funny part is we're doing that right now, actually, Ben. So obviously, I told you guys we went through this coherence effort, which means new course prefixes, new course numbers, slightly reworded course outcomes, slightly reworded program outcomes, and faculty are starting the remapping process as we speak. And I've encouraged them to use AI, and we're working on an agent to help them do that as kind of a first place. And again, we don't want AI to do a curriculum map for them.
Yeah,
But it's good for them to see logically, based on just the wording of the outcomes and what it interprets, this is where it thinks there might be connections. And you might
exactly.
agree or disagree, but there might be value in at least spot checking that.
Yeah, I found it just seems to really help them start the process of thinking about it cohesively in their mind. So I think that's good to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think that's the key is going to faculty and saying there's somewhere to take. Like when we did the
Yeah,
one catalog initiative, what I didn't share is our board of trustees, based on their timeline, we had about 3 months for faculty to rewrite into one catalog, which is all of you are probably well aware is not enough time to go to a bunch of faculty and say, you need to redo all of your course descriptions, your learning outcomes, your course goals, and settle on prefixes and numbers. So what we did instead is we actually used AI and we generated a single catalog for them and sent it out and said, here is where we're starting from. Now fix everything you disagree with. Fix what we missed. Fix what we don't know. I work at an aviation engineering aerospace school. I know nothing about aviation. I don't understand how airplanes fly or work. The physics makes no sense to me. I'm not the disciplinary expert, but I can tell you the outcome's not written right. And if you disagree with it, help me fix it for you. And it also took away, truthfully, it took away a lot of the politics. It wasn't one campus versus another campus. It was both campuses together in their eyes against me. And in
yeah,
my eyes, it's against artificial intelligence. I'm like, I'm not going to take anything personally. You want to change it? Let's change it.
yeah.
I'm not wed to any of this.
Thank
So
you.
I think the mapping part can go a long way too.
Yeah, appreciate that.
And I saw Joanna's note. It's interesting. The idea of not having it work. We've had some success, Joanna. Now, again, the way we've gotten to it has been very much a build up. So it's been, here are the courses and here are the programs and the program outcomes for a particular program. here are the courses, here are the outcomes for those courses. Help us figure out which course outcomes would theoretically tie to program outcomes at different levels and kind of make it that way. So I wouldn't say that it necessarily thinks it's produced a curriculum map, but it's produced everything that we need. That's interesting. We'll have to talk about that because we've had some pretty good success with it. So, um, Erica, I see your hands up. Sorry.
Yeah, I just, but you got into this a little bit describing the process of the catalog revision, and I'm just curious whether it was with Clarity Tower or other AI tools. And maybe this is not something you encounter as much at the particular institution where you are, but I'm just wondering, the faculty who say, I am not using AI and you can't make me because this is like the most ridiculous, redundant reduction of human capacity in my lifetime, or whatever, like insert whatever resistance. So, with a truncated timeline and starting with a draft, I could see how that would help, but I'm just curious for folks who are developing these agents for faculty use, how you might message them so that it's to address some of that resistance head on.
Yeah, and I'll share. I mean, from our end, just from a good change management perspective, being able to start by setting the fire does help because it eliminates some of that initial resistance and saying that you have, telling people in August you have till December 1st to get this done helps them take advantage of all kinds of tools. From an institutional context, we're also in a somewhat unfair advantage because we're in a very tech-friendly place. I mean, folks have been using AI, we're using AI for air traffic control, AI and how we handle airplanes. Like it's a faculty that's disposed towards it. Um, I'm a mentor for the AAC&U AI Symposium, and I'm working with a school that is the polar opposite from mine, which is a whole lot of fun. I'm working with a media and arts school in El Salvador, actually, that is terrified of AI. Because all of their students want to go into design and they're all afraid that, the more there's AI, the less valuable our natural skills are and all of these pieces. Um, and they have a much harder time rolling out anything like this. And the biggest thing about how they've been trying to, um, roll it out is working with students, especially in faculty, on where can it give you time back to do the pieces you do care about. And to be honest, I have found like the stuff I showed you with Clarity Tower, I have some faculty that are like, the writing of their course description is sacred and something they must manually do. For the average faculty member, if they can, literally click the microphone and then talk for 5 minutes about what they want this course to accomplish, and then it gives them a course description, that is a much better use of their time than sitting there trying to wordsmith that and write that. And there are other things they would rather do at that time than the more bureaucratic piece. So I think some of it is rolling it out in a way that demonstrates we're giving you time for the parts you do care about. And we're not forcing people who do enjoy this to use it. I mean, if you're good at writing it, great. Well, I'll show you, Shepherd Scope or Glenform in a minute. And we've had programs that say, like, we like doing this ourselves. We don't want to use AI. So I think that goes a long way. Naeem, I don't know if you want to add anything since you've been equally working on selling this to folks at Riddle too.
Yes, so for specifically for the Shepherd Scope, which is trained for our administrative and student support services, one of the questions was how did we train it? We just fed it different scenarios, different information. We tried to break it intentionally. And so in meetings, when Kayla or I are meeting with someone, we transcribe the meeting notes. Teams will do that for us. And then we just feed that into Shepherd Scope. And it can create a plan for us based on our template and all of the documents we've used to train the AI agent with. And it's a lifesaver. I will say for me, most people who we have done this with, because it is an iterative process, it's a collaborative process, they love it. They feel like this is great. I haven't had many people say, I do not want this agent to do work for me. We've had meetings with people who have said, I don't trust it, but that makes them more inclined to thoroughly review what the agent has produced for them. And so that's an exercise in itself, looking how the agent interprets what we've discussed, how it will create a plan based off of those conversations, and then having the director, executive director review it and tweak it so that it more closely aligns with what they want to assess. That's the beautiful part of about using these agents, because it doesn't exclude the human interaction or the human behavior. I, as Will said earlier, I enjoy having the conversations, and just incorporating these agents as a part of the conversation does increase efficiency and effectiveness. And the messaging around that is very important, and making sure we're consistent with the messaging. We're not replacing people, we're just enhancing what we're able to do in a more efficient and effective way.
Sherry, I see your hands up and it has been. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Lots of good questions. And I will say I have not run into resistance either, but also one of the things I did was start with show and tell, just like what you did, and people kind of get like wowed by what it can do so quickly, and so they're willing to use it. But my question is, have you had, so I've got like 5 or 6 different agents I've built for different purposes and using. I have one that just will not cooperate. It keeps glitching. It keeps shoot. So we have several different accreditors. I mentioned in the chat that I have one named Steven for SACS. That one seems to be working well. Another one, I cannot fix it. It continually feeds me bad information, and I try to retrain it, and I'm almost to the point where I'm thinking I just needed to delete it and begin again. Have you had to do that
Yep.
with any of your things, or any suggestions for, like, because it like makes up standards. It's like, oh yeah, that's standard 6.2. And I'm like, no, it's not. Here's the manual. Here are the standards. Please find the correct standard. And it won't do it.
Yeah, so the two things we've done, I mentioned program goals. Program goals are one of those for us, or course goals. They're very particular at Riddle in the way they want them formatted and how they're used. It still struggles with that. I have killed that feature in it 2 or 3 times. My next step, if it doesn't get better quickly, even though I know how now to get to the right spot, will probably be to build a separate agent dedicated to just that, so that there's no concern about where is it pulling cross information or bad information. Or is it, truthfully, I mean, and I haven't dug deep enough in, is it pulling something about the word goals from the Wisconsin or the Stanford site that I've given it that it's misinterpreting and doing differently? Like, all sorts of different things to look at. But I think that's where you have to be willing to do that. I think that's the biggest first step, is like that there is a sunk cost, but the sunk cost of killing it and starting over is probably less than continually having to reframe it, especially if you want it to become something that faculty are independently working with at some point. Because that's when I need to be able to trust it. I mean, as I shared, the worst outcome, the worst conversation I can have is me going into a curriculum proposal and tearing apart somebody's learning outcomes, and then them showing me that my tool gave it those. Because then I am the issue on both sides for the faculty member. So I think that's a huge piece, is being willing to. Um, Another part of it, to be honest, I mean, I know we're here for Microsoft tools. Some of it, it's not as good in Copilot. I'm going to show you something in a minute in Glenform. What I'm going to show you we can do in Copilot, and we do in Copilot, it's a lot easier in GPT. And there's just no denying that there are models, there are tools that do these things differently. And we'll emphasize the Copilot piece because it is doable, but you'll be able to tell very quickly the types of things that would be faster. So I want to quickly show you guys this just for the sake of time. Glenform is what we use um, uh, for academic assessment. As Naima shared, Shepherd Scope for administrative assessment. In terms of returning time to faculty, we're trying to get faculty out of the assessment management system. We're trying to get to a point where they can have conversations amongst themselves. We can pull transcripts. We can have agents yank the information that we need for assessment reporting purposes. But for them, it feels very native, very generic, and they're building off of each other's comments. So what I'm going to do is actually pull the information. That's not what I wanted to say. There we go. So this tells me what we need. And you'll notice that I say here, because I'm going to pull in a transcript, I have to say all done at the end, because one of the biggest downsides of Copilot is its limitations on how much text it can handle. So I have to end up breaking this into 4 parts. In GPT, I can just do it in, one part. So I'll say part 104. And all I'm doing is loading a completely fake transcript where a bunch of fake political scientists scream at each other about politics and student learning for 15 minutes. That's GPT. So there's part 1. part 2 of 4. And this one's not perfectly trained because I'm showing you it out of my kind of test site, but it will get our point across in the 5 minutes we have. This will be part 3 of 4. 3 of 4. And it might misbehave and think that it had enough at that point and it's ready to go, or it might not. Perfect. And then I'll just go ahead and dump this last piece in. All done. It now has full transcripts. It already, so on the back end, we've loaded our templates and our template descriptors in here. So it should have a pretty good idea of what it's looking at. And I asked it in the transcript, which I used a different AI model to create the transcript. The instructions were pretty clear. I want to have one course goal and one course learning outcome discussed, or program goal and program learning outcome discussed. And I don't want it to be linear. Like this can't be a structured interview. This needs to be 4 or 5 people talking over each other, sharing ideas, being of differing opinions, all of those pieces. And it now starts walking through what we would expect for our templates. And this is one that we definitely need to, more quickly say. So like right here, it says, should I suggest it into the anthology outcome? Put it into anthology template, please. Full detail, no bullets, likes to bullet point. It's getting better at not bulleting. But in a minute off of those transcripts, it then walks through everything field by field in our templates, and it's taken what the faculty have natively talked about. We're giving it back to them and saying, is this accurate compared to what you would want in the assessment plan? And they're not going through the bureaucratic piece of having to sit with the system and talk about it. Because my number one frustration that I'm sure a lot of you share, I can talk to a faculty member and they will go for hours on what they're doing in their programs, innovation, the impact it's having on students. And then I log them into an assessment management system and they write 2 sentences, pat themselves on the back, and head home. So you get the color commentary that we thrive for, and it removes the barrier because the amount of time I've wasted in my career trying to be a data storyteller for people, as opposed to just capturing the story they already know, is insane. Like faculty know what's working and happening in their programs. I can handle, Sherry, you mentioned it. I can handle the Stephen part of it. If they can talk about it and get me the information, I can do the bureaucracy and keep them, shielded from that, which the vast majority of them want to be shielded from. So it just gives us all kinds of different options. I'm going to say report phase 2, just so it shows you that it can do the reporting side. But it's all about training. It's building and training. So, here's the plan phase, and now it's walking it into narrative as opposed to even having it be templated. Here's what they did. Here's what they accomplished. Here's what they are doing next. And we're into the type of beautiful narrative that reviewers know they're actually using the data. We're getting full information. We're seeing how this gets ultimately used. So, um, just an FYI at that. And Sherry, your question on the meetings, it can be transcribed. They can go in and kind of work through that, whichever way they sort of want to do it. Because we have our worldwide campus, a lot of our meetings are remote already. But yeah, we could easily have them transcribed. And that's where I'm sharing. Some faculty have said, our programs, we sit together and already do this and fill it out in the system. Great, keep doing that. You're not the problems. The problems are the ones that have this much information to share, but I get a sentence of it because they try to bureaucratize the language to meet what they think SAC-COC or ABBY or ABET or AACSB wants, and they lose all the flavor. So we're using it there too. And sorry, we're right up at time, which I know, but I wanted to make sure I showed you that piece as well. But happy to take questions and hang around for a few minutes.
Well, I think Eric has a question in
Yeah.
the chat. Can a faculty member use Glenform or Clarity Tower for a bit, then come back and resume their session? Will the agent store chats with unique users?
So the way we're actually doing it now, Erica, is we keep them out of Glenform. So yeah, they could go, like, basically they get us the transcripts. We have a GPT version, so we can use the audio files versus the transcript if they want. So we tend to run that administratively today to avoid some of those problems. But we're working. Naima actually has a bot an agent on the administrative side that they could actually interact with that will go back and forth with them and get this. So,
David
Dave,
would also like to know whether these are FERPA compliant.
yeah, they're good on FERPA. We tell people not to really bring up student names, and they wouldn't naturally come up in these conversations, but they're on institutional licenses, so our institution is satisfied with that.
Same, and we've been told that we can only do this kind of thing in Microsoft because of the institutional license. So if I go out to try and use Gemini or ChatGPT for something, I can only do really like generic, high level kind of stuff that wouldn't use any information from our institution.
Perfect. And I'll share too, share again, not to pitch, companies that aren't Microsoft, since that's what you guys are here for. Boodlebox is one to look at because Boodlebox has the military security, so it allows you to use Gemini, Claude, all of those in one place without actually sharing user information to the models. So that is an option that's out there, but I mean that's a paid subscription, but the security side is probably the best there.
All right. Thanks everyone for a great session, and we'll have a great week and we'll see you in December.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Stephanie.